Good morning. Actually, good afternoon, depending where you're at. This is Ryan Howe with Small Business News. Ryan Howe with Some Business Guides. Got a great, Friday conversation for you today. It's a little dreary out here in Michigan, but I think we're heading into a great weekend here. And there's a few things that today on Fridays are a little bit more loose. You can see my pup Bonnie just made a visit here. It is what it is. Hey, what's up, pup? Doing good? Yeah. All right. So, you know, I've had a few things that I've been looking at and talking with folks about lately, and it's just a few things that I want to make sure that I cover here. And today's going to be about some of the things that where people are talking about the side hustles that are picking up, and that more and more people are starting businesses, which is great. I think there's more economic reasons for that than anything, than people just all of a sudden became entrepreneurs. But we're going to look at that and how the side hustles are, and just some things to think about. I found another article. It's on Entrepreneur that was talk about people that were poached, employees that were poached and then laid off, and what that does to them. And again, where I just want to remind folks about the risk analysis that they should be taking as a one is a employer poaching people, but two, if you're an employee who is getting poached or possibly leaving your company, you got to remember a few things. So definitely risk management. And last, we're going to talk about teamwork and just how important that is, and how they consistently outperform individual leaders. And we'll get into all that later. But I just things that have been coming up lately in conversations with my clients that I just wanted to be able to share with some folks here. So with that, just a reminder, if you want to learn more about what I do, it's summitbusinessguides.com, where I come and I work with small businesses to help grow their companies. Some are in transition, basically looking to sell their companies. A lot of folks are simply just want their companies to run better so that they can then pass it on to their family, rather than what typically happens with a lot of small businesses, which are 66% do not sell. So just something to keep in mind there. All right. So again, I use Pinnacle. You can learn more about this. Is the business operating system that I help set up. It's very helpful for everybody. Helps me better understand what folks are doing. So let's see. So yeah, there's that other spot. Essential Coaching Conversations is basically done. This is the course that I'm going to be offering. Something to just keep in mind here. It's a 2-week course, 56 different videos. Actually, going to be 58. I still got to finish my conclusion video and the overall thank you video that comes up out of that. So yeah, it's getting ready to launch here. It'll be on my website soon. I'm pretty excited for when be able to get this out here for folks, give an opportunity. So with that, let's take a moment and let's get into our first conversation. Let me make sure that's set up here. Let's talk about these side hustles here. Again, links to all the videos that I'm going to be covering today are in the description. So let's get into this. So side hustles are soaring as entrepreneurs start businesses working part or full-time elsewhere, according to working part or full-time elsewhere, according to a new report. And this shouldn't be shocking for anyone. Like, it really shouldn't be surprising for anyone there. Again, this is a natural thing you would expect people to do, as as inflation does what it does. It's just one of those things to keep in mind here, is that you're going to have more and more people looking to pick up side jobs. They were never called hustles before. It was literally called a second job or a side job, something you did to bring in a little extra cash. So let me make this a little bit bigger. So percentage of entrepreneurs who started their business as side hustles jumped from 27% to 44% in 2023. Again, working remotely, not having to commute, plus having access to AI. This is one of the man, it just feels like the early 2000s again. Well, they have a website, so they're obviously going to be going to be worth a couple $1 billion. Excuse me there. All right. May have helped businesses get off the ground last year. So the number of small businesses created by founders who already had a job nearly doubled from 2022 to last year. Like I said, this is mostly driven by inflation. Their employers are not going to be able to provide them the cash. But also, this is another piece too to keep in mind here. There's the loyalty between employers and employees is kind of at an all-time low. It's just the way it is that time in the business cycle where we have to have, everybody needs to be looking out for themselves. I know it seems weird to say that, but as a business owner, you've got to protect your business. It's your responsibility. It's your asset you built up. And then as an employee, if you're watching this, you've just got to, be out there to keep things in mind with your, basically look out for yourself too. Just something to keep in mind. All right. So that makes full sense. Get a second line of income coming in to protect yourself. So a quarter of respondents said they were working full-time day jobs while starting their companies, and 19% were working part-time jobs. Uncertainty around which way the economy's going made people a little skittish to give up something they've got in order to go for something they want. Hybrid and remote work could give employees the space and time with the lack of commute to explore their entrepreneurial potential, according to Wilkie. They don't say give them time because, employers don't keep them fully employed throughout the day, so it gives them time to work on stuff. Just something to keep in mind. That's not what they're saying. They're saying just because you got the commute. And you think about the average commute, that's almost 2 hours a day for a lot of folks or more that they get back because they're working from home. Generative AI like OpenAI's ChatGPT, which came on the scene in 2022, could have also helped businesses owners set up their own ventures. There's no lie there. And the ability just to say, "Hey, ChatGPT, could you make the following for me?" is pretty important. Now, let's see here. The survey showed that more than 20% of new companies are using generative AI tools, and 6% of them are using them for marketing. Yeah, why wouldn't you? Hey, ChatGPT, could you make me some copy for basically for some marketing or for an advertisement to go on Facebook targeting these demographics? It'll kick you out something that's an 80%, product. Pretty good. So also, the younger the worker, the more likely they were to start a business as a side hustle. The survey showed that nearly half of founders, 25 to 34-year-olds, were working for someone else while starting their business, and over half of that age group was still working for that company at the time of the survey. In comparison, again, this also makes sense. So, again, as you get older, your compensation gets a little bit better. So you're less willing to take that risk for a lot of folks to start out there. But when you're younger, making a little bit of not as much cash, the risk reward isn't nearly as daunting. So just something to keep in mind here. This isn't necessarily the greatest indicator for how well the economy is doing. Instead, that would be more like, hey, we actually need to have additional cash flows coming in. So, well, that was just interesting. One of the things I just remind my clients to keep an eye on. All right, next thing we're going to be taking a look here is, it's going to be another thing for entrepreneur.com that I came across I just thought was interesting was this sort of opinion piece that this individual put out here about getting poached. And then they were laid off 60 days later. I was embarrassed to talk about it, but doing so helped me get my next job. So this is, again, just talking about where, that shared experience that these individuals are having, where they took a risk, they went after a different job, they got laid off, but they were open about it, and I'm sure the reasons they have, again, from a employer looking to add them, you're just looking for honesty about what you did, why you made your decisions, and what you learned from it. All right, a company poached Amanda Nielsen from her job and let her go 60 days later. Nielsen took several steps to land good job leads, including her current role. She says posting frequently on LinkedIn helped her stay in her network, and that's a big part of it. Let's see, Uggs jacket, this probably taken in the fall. Okay. So this is as told to essays based on a conversation with Amanda Nielsen, partnerships manager based in Denver. Been edited for length and clarity. Business Insider has verified her employment history. So again, this is from Business Insider on entrepreneur.com. Make sure everybody gets credit for it. So I've worked in partnerships my whole career. I was at a company in the software space for 4 years. When the company did a round of layoffs, I survived the cut, but a lot of my team was let go and the job didn't feel the same. I was opening up to the idea of new roles when the perfect opportunity presented itself. A manager from another company in the same industry reached out and made me a job offer I could not refuse. So you had basically had someone say, hey, we saw what happened over there. We'd love to have your experience come this direction. And then see what worked out. Took the offer, and then shortly after I joined, the new leadership was brought in at the C-suite level. Dun, dun, dun. In October 2023, close to my 60-day mark, the company laid off a significant part of its staff. My entire team, including my manager and I, were let go. It was a shock because the company had put so much effort in to poach me, make an attractive offer, and spend the time onboarding me. I felt naive and silly. I had just announced my job move to my whole network and told them all about my new responsibilities. So, first things first, a lot of people worry about what people think about them and the way that their decisions they made. People don't think about us, about you or me, or people don't think about us as often as we think. We are literally we are the main character in our own story. We're an NPC in 99.9% of everybody else's stories. So just get over yourself for that one thing. You put it out there, say, hey, I've got a new job and I'm moving here, great. And you get laid off. It happens. Like, especially now, you've seen, the tech industry as a whole has been decimated, but it just happens, folks. It is what it is, so, but don't worry about that stuff. But again, sharing your story is absolutely important. Practical words too. I just set up my insurance and had asked for my 401k to be rolled over. My entire team being fired also made me question my abilities and how this looked from the outside. No one's giving it a second thought, and which you're going to find. So once I collected myself, I went to LinkedIn and let people know I had been let go. Excuse me. It's still early here and Ryan needs his coffee. So I've been let go and was looking for new opportunities. Also began applying for jobs online. Even though I was open-minded about roles and had a solid resume and network, I struggled with my job hunt. One thing that had changed since my last job search 4 years earlier was the pandemic and the rise of remote work. Suddenly I was competing with people from around the U.S. and the world. That's absolutely true. In the past, I felt like cover letters and personalized applications got me through the door. Okay, yeah, so she's obviously learned something. No one cares about anything anymore. Oh, that's too bad. So with that, and I'm going to talk about the strategies here. Just want to keep in mind what you want to have as a strategy with any of your applications you're doing, just, as someone who's reviewed, thousands of them over the years. Meet the minimum requirements and make sure you deliver what you're supposed to deliver. But then don't be afraid to be yourself. Having something a little bit off that is going to not just get through the AI function, but when you do get into, assuming you make it into the A stack, you do want some eye candy and there's something that's going to help you stand out a little bit. All right, so I landed a job within 3 months. I currently work as partner sales manager at Box, a job I landed in February. A credit to some of the initiatives I took after my layoff. Absolutely. Being honest on LinkedIn about my journey. Yeah, everyone knows just how crappy that is, and they're gonna, you're gonna get support, especially if it's something that layoffs occurred and you were known to be a quality person. I promise you, your previous employer, while they were upset that you were gone, do not wish you to get laid off afterwards. So you're gonna have some empathy there. So again, once I put a post on about being let go, I had tons of people reaching out and wanting to help. I joked that my calendar was full, just as full during my job search as working full time. I also continue to post content about my job search journey, which can feel embarrassing and uncomfortable, but I help people learn I was still on the market. Yeah. Remember your job. So one thing to keep in mind here too, if you are looking for work as an employee, your job is, applying for jobs, trying to get hired. Think of it as a business. You have to have marketing out there too. And that's great for what LinkedIn's for, is for advertising. I'm here, I'm looking for work. Never know who's going to look at it. Asking people in my industry for coffee chats, 100%. Just go to networking and talk to people. Asking for referrals, absolutely. Referrals are extremely important. That's one thing that is misunderstood and not fully grasped and appreciated for what it is. The vast majority of positions are still filled, like in key positions, by someone who knows someone and just wants to do an introduction. Like that happens still, and it should. Again, people will say, "Well, that's not fair. I have the qualities for this," and I get that. However, from when you're looking at somebody who knows as an intermediary and they're saying, listen, Alice, Charlie over here, and you're Bob. Charlie over here is going to be a good fit because I know Charlie and I know you. I know the work that they do and I know the work that you need done. And that referral to be able to put those two together is so extremely important. There's a lot of risk when you're an employer. The average turnover, basically the average cost for getting someone hired in is north of, basically a turnover cost around $10,000 now when you turn over an employee. So I get where that piece is. I understand where it can be a little frustrating on the, basically on the applicant side. I get that. However, if you've got folks that know people, don't try to be this big, strong, I can get it done by myself. Screw that. If you got someone that knows someone, ask them to, take them to coffee and ask if they'd be willing to at least do an introduction. That's all you need. Just do the introduction, and then it's on you after that to make the relationship work. But yeah, don't find a different hill to die on. Let's go with that. All right, and then lastly, the freelance work. So I allocated more of my time to my side hustle. See, that's why people are starting side hustles in case they get laid off, so they can have additional work. Unfortunately, that's what it is. Small e-commerce platform where I sell merchandise and offer freelance consulting. All right, especially if you're in the tech industry or if you're in the like in the executive world, if you're in the business services world, your skill set is what you got up here, not necessarily your hands and the labor you have. So there's a lot of work out there for freelance consulting for sure. Again, just a small plug there again. That's why I'm a business coach. Isn't freelance per se. I've got a full suite of tools and a community that I have to support me while I help my clients. But with this, these steps kept me occupied and helped me find job leads, including the present role. When my current boss was looking for people to expand his team, he reached out to his network for recommendations. See what I'm saying? This is the way it works, folks. My frequent posting and constant networking had kept me on top of people's minds, and I was recommended to my boss by several people. In retrospect, despite how painful it was, I'm grateful for the layoff because of the opportunities that opened up for me. And again, I found that to be the case with an awful lot of folks. If you haven't been fired, you're missing out on a little something about that. And what that is simply just, when you get fired, when you get laid off, it's a very humbling experience. And it simply just reminds you that you cannot fall in love with your employer, right? You can't love something that can't love you back. So just keep that in mind, and you'll be better served that way. It's one of the top recommendations that I have for individuals who are currently working with employers and trying to figure out how to make it work. They need to understand that they are they want to collaborate as much as possible, but end of the day, they need to extract the value that makes sense for them and not give. Okay? If they are just constantly giving as an employee, they are in a toxic relationship, and they should think about that. Same thing on the employer side. If all you're doing is giving, and you have employees and a culture that only takes and doesn't give back sometime, and some sort of collaboration, you need to also take a long look at who you have in your management leadership positions, which leads to again the topic of the day, which is at the top. It's all about teamwork. Why it is that exceptional leadership teams exhibit these leadership teams vastly outperform, what would be the old phrase was the great man leadership style, where there's one person is the head and they're the individual that knows everything. And it goes back to this one thing. You don't know everything. And frankly, just being able to hand things off is much, much better. So, and this is at Bain.com. Exceptional leadership teams exhibit 5 collective behaviors, and here's how to build them. There's a correlation between businesses that outperformed and highly effective executive teams, yet only 1 in 5 executive teams is high performing. What you tend to find out is there's one person in charge and a bunch of yes men or ladies, or yes thems. Make sure everybody's covered. The most effective teams develop and demonstrate 5 key behaviors, and we're going to talk about them here: direction, discipline, collaboration, dynamism, and drive. So effective leadership teams outperform even the most effective individual leaders. Absolutely, and they should. I mean, that should be the way it is. Every time, in almost every context. A Bain study of 1,250 companies found a correlation between business performance leaders and companies that beat their competition in high revenue growth, profitability, total shareholder return, and a highly effective top teams. What do these high-performing teams have in common? Not the things companies traditionally focus on, having cultivating highly talented individuals with deep expertise and the right experiences. And I can speak to that before we get into those. You want to have a team that gets it and everyone's focused and going in the right direction. They fully understand their skill set, where their strengths and weaknesses are. It's always the teams with hubris that get smoked. What makes the biggest difference is the top team's ability to act and behave as a collective. Being able to rationally look at what they're doing, have those conversations, and make decisions in the best interest of the company here. So, all right, insights gathered by Bain from hundreds of top teams across 11 industries and 3 global regions show that the most effective leadership teams demonstrate 5 observable behaviors. Direction, they align on strategy. Discipline, they make and execute decisions consistently and have productive meetings. Collaboration, they build trust, intentionally solve problems, and brainstorm together and hold each other accountable. Dynamism, they prepare for and lead change. And drive, they're industrious and resilient. And then we got some kind of the breakdown here, but we're going to go into the different pieces. So again, these are all the steps that I start with my clients. We look at the team as a whole and analysis, but then our next step is how aligned are we collectively towards purpose, core values, and direction. Those are that is base level first things we do. We cannot have everybody going off in 7, 8 different directions. We need everybody hyper focused that they're moving towards the one direction. So something just to see that we want to make sure. Just saying hi to someone. They were just poking their head in. So, all right. Let's see here. So collaboration. Collaborative measures are the essence of teaming. A lack of collaboration leads to ineffective interaction in teams that may resemble a cage match or a morgue. But a highly collaborative team is a crucible of effective crucible. They were definitely hitting up their thesaurus for this one. A crucible of effective focus, energy, execution, and accountability. Teams that value collaboration share a win together, lose together attitude. Absolutely. They're grounded in personal working relationships that help trust take root. They practice inclusion. As a result, they establish psychological safety necessary to innovate, fail, and give and receive feedback along the way. Absolutely. That psychological safety is one of the things that I talk about with my teams consistently, where I just want them to understand that they should be making mistakes. We want to see them making mistakes. So, all right, direction. Top team shares and holds a common direction by contributing to and aligning around the organization's vision, purpose, and strategy. I'm not going to go in anything more than that. Understanding that if you do not have that figured out as a team, if you have not focused on your direction, purpose, strategy, and how you want to go about things, you're going to just get basically stuck and probably move backwards. Band's going to break up, all sorts of bad stuff. That's where you see the infighting. When you know where you want to go, all work and thought processes should be centered on making sure that you are heading that direction. All right, discipline. One of the things that when I'm talking with my teams is patience and discipline are the 2 most important aspects and character traits that we're looking for at the beginning. Patience, as you all figure it out, discipline to stay on the track and follow through on the decisions that you made. See them through. So again, efficient meetings is the other one. I train my teams and I teach them exactly how to do their meetings. There's 2 things just to let you guys know that with my teams that they have to do. One is they need to agree at the beginning what they're trying to decide by the end of the meeting. right? So whatever the objectives are. And two, they put a cost on every single meeting. What each meeting, the price of what that meeting is actually going to cost them. So everyone understands what it means, what they're investing in the way of labor hours as well as overhead to be in that meeting. It's very, very important that they have that. So, but again, discipline is so important when you get with your teams to make sure that they fully understand and they run the meetings in the way in a good faith effort to be successful. So with this, next thing that these teams that are high performing have is they must create and organize the space, time, and flexibility to be productive. Meetings should be the locus of productivity. But that's the location of productivity. But teams often don't give them the rigor, preparation, conduct, and follow through they are due. Meetings are a huge waste of time if they are not designed properly, if everyone is not trained on how to run them, and they have a purpose. When I'm looking at my with my clients, we want to have, there's information meetings and then there's decision meetings, because meetings exist to close communication gaps. Like that is at the top of everyone's understanding. You only have a meeting because you need to close some sort of communication gap. Sorry, my camera just reset. Communication gap between what you know and somebody else does. All right. So if you're having meetings simply just to talk to get everybody in line, you need to take a look at your processes, because there's something in your processes where information is not getting disseminated where it should be going. So figure that out in your processes so you can have less meetings, right? But either way, there's info or decision, and you should be having like a 9-to-1 ratio of decision meetings versus information meetings when you get this right. All right, so back to this here. The behaviors that lead to well-structured and well-run meetings also support other value behaviors, including collaboration. By contrast, poorly run meetings can have a negative domino effect, like a lack of participation, disengagement, and retreat to silos. You end up with no one wants to be there, and then to make sure that they have stuff to talk about at the meeting, so they're not getting called out as, what do you have to contribute? They will hold on to information just so they have something to speak about, so the boss doesn't get after them about stuff. So again, discipline in meetings, very, very important. All right, so dynamism. Okay, got to take my time and enunciate that correctly. This is the third trait of highly effective teams, so very important to understand, is teams that treat change as a constant and understand how to behave together are dynamic in the face of both opportunities and challenges. They continuously seek and engage with information from channels outside and inside their organization. They also create the conditions for innovation by investing in it, securing resources, and setting expectations, compensation, incentives that allow for failure. Let me say that one more time, because that's extremely important here, that understanding. They also create the conditions for innovation by investing in it, securing resources, and setting expectations and compensation and incentives that allow for failure. Too many of the structures that you have in leadership teams are based on success and being able to, meet whatever yes, don't get me wrong. You have to still meet the minimums to keep the business growing, to keep it aligned, to do those things. Absolutely. No one's saying that. That isn't important. However, when it comes to your leadership teams, you want to make sure that you have a community and an environment that allows for people to test new boundaries, and that they have to figure out if this is something that's going to be successful for them and their team going forward. The only way they can do that in good faith is knowing that if they fail at it, they're not going to be let go, right? And they can report back on the team, and it's something that I have my teams set up. It's called the Book of Bad Ideas. Hey, we went and ran a test on this. We took a look at it. Here's all the data we found, and here was our findings. This was a bad idea. And it just goes up on the shelf. It lives on the shelf. So that way, that if any of the variables change that made that an unsuccessful venture, if they change, you can then make the decision to go back and run that test again and may be successful this time, right? But at the end of the day, you need to understand that your teams need to feel safe enough to be able to go out and fail at what they're doing. But with that, this other phrase here, like a bias for action enables the team to respond with speed and deliberation to new scenarios by modifying plans and executing accordingly. One of the main phrases that I use with my teams when it comes to planning and strategy is that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. We got that from the military, and it's because they tend to shoot back, right? So it's going to blow up immediately. But if as long as you have an understanding of where you want to go and what it needs to look like when you get there, you as a team, you can make decisions and, veer left instead of right. But then, course correct after you've gotten through whatever this issue that comes up. As long as you understand these things and it's inherent, you'll be just fine. All right. So let's continue on down the line here. Lastly is going to be drive. And this is the last bit here. COVID-19 showed that teams that sustain their drive over the long term help the organization not only to survive, but thrive. Man, people love that phrase. They prepare, and this is the thing, they prepare for potential setbacks and are industrious, focused, diligent, detail-oriented. They embrace their creative friction that comes from constructive debate, especially when under pressure, and follow a process to resolve conflict. By reiterating and recommitting to their goals, members help one another maintain focus and persevere. A focus on problem solving and innovation helps them face difficulties head on with confidence and optimism. One of the pieces that, again, when I going into COVID-19, when I was back in industry, prior to that, I was building out my teams at 3 different locations, and the leadership teams that were in place, I was beating them up severely to get all of their processes down, to fully understand their training, to have things lined up. Mainly because I wanted them to be resilient and to be able to flex and make decisions when I wasn't around. By the time I had them humming by the end of 2019, so when COVID hit, we were already used to operating remotely. We were already in a place where they made decisions and were able to come to meetings and basically just say, hey, here's why I did this. Like, okay. And we could see if it was aligned properly with, not just with our core values, but the key business drivers we had, and also my expectations from an operations standpoint. So, but they were all driven people to do very well to protect the business in a way, because we, as on the operations team, understood that we were generating the profits that were supporting the individuals and the families of those individuals who were working in the organization. So we took that very seriously, and we were very driven to make sure it was as successful as possible. So with that, back to this here. So conclusion on this, just again, it's this is from Bain and Company. I'll let you read through this here on your own time, but it's definitely worth a read. This was a great, and this is also just a great, make it a little bit bigger here, where they talk about the collaboration between all of these here, the dynamism, the drive, the discipline, direction. They definitely are so very important when you're talking about just quality teams. So if you find that you're in a team that's got infighting and other aspects there, you need to take a long, hard look and see about what your alignment looks like. Again, the people there, are they fully invested, or are they looking out for themselves? So again, that's where I had for today. Again, just a little reminder, we covered here side hustles. They're absolutely soaring, but I think it's more to do with the fact that it's in an economy where inflation is staying high, and it looks like it's going to be higher for quite longer. Not consistently to accelerate. I'm just saying it's going to be at an elevated rate for quite some time because of the strength of the economy, frankly, where we're at, where the side hustles are existing because people want to shore up an additional cash flow. Second piece, we just talk about when the poaching. So we got people who are, jumping from job to, who are poached by another company. You are increasing your risk by doing that. Just one of the things to keep in mind. It is last in, first out. All right, it's LIFO when it comes to employment. Seniority makes all the difference in your companies. And when you make the decision in this environment to jump to a new company, understand you are now the low person on the seniority pole, basically totem. And if they have to cut people, you're going to be on that list. And then obviously we just finish up with teamwork there. So again, my name is Ryan Howe with Summit Business Guides here. Again, if you're curious more about what I do, go to summitbusinessguides.com, see what I happen to do here and how I help grow teams faster than I ever thought possible. Obviously, if you liked what you saw here, feel free to subscribe, hit that like button, and I will see you next week. I'm here every morning between 7:30, 8 o'clock ish. So if you want to make sure that you're here live and be able to hop in and jump on the chat, be able to ask me some questions, not only hit the subscribe, obviously that like button's important, but hit that notification bell to let you know when I go live. So that way you have the opportunity to hop on here